Time.
Good afternoon, South Africa, and good morning to our panelists and those that are tuning in from the U.S. and South Africa. First, I'd like to take a moment to thank the leadership of the Durban International Film Festival for this collaboration with the San Francisco Black Film Festival that began in 2020 before the reality of the pandemic hit. My name is Jackie Wright, and I am blessed to be the publicist for the San Francisco Black Film Festival and also working with a number of nonprofits in the San Francisco Bay Area. You know, both the Durban International Film Festival and the San Francisco Black Film Festival, we just pivoted virtually when the pandemic happened, and we have evolved, and we're here today. So thanks again to the Durban International Film Festival for providing a platform for this conversation, the power of cinema to create social change. And I'd like to welcome our panelists. First of all, Cree Ray, the executive director of the San Francisco Black Film Festival, is with us. Also, we have the filmmaker, James Farr, who has joined us. And we have the San Francisco Bayview editor, Nube Brown, who is with us also. And we may possibly be getting a visitor from New Orleans that will be joining us. So just want to take a moment to start and give you a brief background before we get into our conversation that will feature the winner of the San Francisco Film Festival, Jeff Adachi Social Justice Award. And that winner, of course, is Sinzun, a revolutionary activist. So we're so pleased to be able to share that information with you today about this film. You know, Avi Montague, the late arts impresario, a public affairs expert who worked with many community groups in San Francisco, such as the Heart Association in the Black community, headed by Kelly Armstrong, the Lorraine Hansberry Theater with leaders Quentin Easter and Stanley Williams, who have both transitioned. Well, she started the San Francisco Black Film Festival in 1998 with a passion to share the beauty of the African diaspora culture to all people. And so it was just wonderful to have her be a leader, an icon in our community that was making sure that the culture of the African diaspora worldwide was brought to San Francisco and shared in San Francisco. And since San Francisco is a world destination, sharing with all the world. Her son, Khalil Ray, moved from Atlanta, Georgia, after her death a couple of days after organizing the very successful Obama West inauguration with KBLX radio station in January of 2009. And he led and built the organization until, unfortunately, his untimely death of an undetected heart disease on Friday, August 7th in 2020. That was just 3 weeks before Chadwick Boseman's death on Friday, August 28th, 2020. It was very difficult time for us at the San Francisco Black Film Festival and the community, and even the mayor, Reed, was grieving with us about that particular time. But during his leadership, Kali, he befriended the San Francisco public defender and filmmaker, Jeff Adachi. Jeff Adachi was a Japanese American just warrior for the people. And the Jeff Adachi Social Justice Award was created after Jeff Adachi's sudden and unexpected death in February of 2019. And because he was committed to the values of social justice, which represent the values of the San Francisco Black Film Festival, Kali decided to name an award after him. And Jeff Adachi went across the nation teaching lawyers and judges about implicit bias. Those values were reflected in his films, such as America Needs a Racial Facial. There's a link to the film in the box in the Facebook arena that shares the references about America needing a racial facial. So we won't have time to go over that today, but you can take a look at it yourself. And then also, you can also always Google it as well. But, I'm just going to take a moment and just have you hear the spirit of Jeff himself. Excuse me while I am producing for myself, and I'm going to go and open up my, be able to share the screen here, hopefully. And I'm looking for that. There it is. And I'll bring that up, share it. And we're just going to hear from Jeff Adachi himself. And you'll see the spirit of the man, and you'll see the spirit of the San Francisco Black Film Festival as well, I think. You're just everywhere. You're here at the special screening of Restored Me. What inspired you to come out?
Well, I'm here to support the San Francisco Black Film Festival. It's amazing that all the films, 60 films in this lineup, and I hope a lot of people come out and see them. But particularly this film talks about the difficulties that young people go through in and out of the system. We have to remember that even here in San Francisco, 56% of the people going in and out of the criminal justice system are African American, yet our population has dwindled down to about 5%. And so these kinds of movies are so important because it reflects the new reality of mass incarceration, of the obstacles that the system constantly puts in people's way. And these are the human stories that need to connect with mass audiences. So we need to get the word out that films like Restored Me have to be in the living room, have to be on Comcast and HBO, and we have to come out and support them here at the theater. I mean, it's fine to go out and see Tyler Perry, but you also need to see the kind of cinema that's going to touch and move you in a very different way.
Wow, that's awesome. You know, you've got a film in the festival, America Needs a Racial Facial. So how do you think that film ties in with the theme of tonight in terms of recidivism and that sort of thing?
Well, I am a public defender in the daytime and I'm a filmmaker at night. And this is my third film. It's a short film called America Needs a Racial Facial about racism in the United States. And the thing about it is, Jackie, it's only 8 minutes long because we wanted to have a film that would spark discussion that you can put into the schools. We took over 400 images and put it in this film. And so I guarantee you it'll blow you away. And it really does relate to a lot of the themes of the films in this character. People of color come from a history of struggle, from oppression, and so our films reflect that. And the thing about it now is that it's great. When you see in the African American community, there's a very broad range of films that are out there. You know, for the Asian community, they don't see that as much. And so there are a lot of other folks who are still striving to be represented. And so the Black Film Festival does that. This film does that, and I want to be part of that change too. This is about making social change on the biggest screen possible, and that's in our society.
Making social change in the biggest screen possible in our society. And so that pretty much is Jeff Adachi in terms of his, that was in 2016, a very strong friend of the San Francisco Black Film Festival. And he really supported the film festival very strongly. You know, the San Francisco Black Film Festival has its motto, healing the world one film at a time. And we're blessed to have Callie O'Rea's daughter and Ave Montague's granddaughter, Cree, with us today, carrying on the tradition that began with her grandmother and father. So let me point out one thing, that the family tradition and leadership that now spans 3 generations for the San Francisco Black Film Festival is very unique because of the fact that there's been a lot of people that have left, Black people that have left the San Francisco Bay Area. You could hear that in the comments from Jeff Adachi, where he said 5%, there's only 5% of Black people in San Francisco. So, Cree, thanks for joining us so early in this morning. You had to get started around 6:30 or so, but I wanted you to give us your thoughts about the importance of that theme of the festival, healing the world one film at a time, in the context of our topic today, which is the power of cinema to create social change. Share with us. Cree?
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay, sorry, it's really early for me. I feel like the importance of the theme, especially for me, is so film tells a story, right? So if you're healing the world one film at a time, you're healing the world through your stories and through the filmmakers who enter their submissions to the San Francisco Black Film Festival. These are their stories that they want to tell the world. This is their work. This is their art. This is what they think is important and what they want to teach the world. And we're just really a platform for them to be able to do that. So without any of the filmmakers that do bring their submissions to us, we would never have these stories to tell. And I also feel like being able to help them tell the stories and kind of show the world, especially when it comes to Black history and Black art and Black movements and what that means, is very important, because this is kind of the way most of the world is kind of gonna understand it a little bit more too, and kind of want to help and be part of that. And I think our history is always important, kind of how Jeff speaks about back then there was only 5% in San Francisco of Blacks left. There's less than that now. And I think that's also the story that, like, hopefully this fiscal year I'm able to tell more as to, like, why aren't there so many left in the San Francisco Bay Area? Where did we all go? Where did we all migrate to? And then that will kind of also show the bigger story of African Americans as a whole history throughout the whole entire years, how we had to keep migrating due to all of these issues that we faced.
Yeah. Now, you said this upcoming year, and I think it's very significant. We're talking about the 25th anniversary. So, in effect, you've already started celebrating the 25th anniversary of the San Francisco Black Film Festival. So, kudos to you and the work that you're doing and that you're continuing and making and extending that story, because one of the things that I think a lot of times people hear Black and they only think that the San Francisco Black Film Festival is for Black people. What do you say to that?
It's not. It's for everybody. I don't ever, obviously, I would never put somebody in a situation where you're not welcome because of the color of your skin. That's not what we ever wanted. That's not what we should have ever been put through. So why would I ever put somebody through that? I also think, when you talk about diversity and things like that, it's not just, yes, we have an emphasis of the story of us as Black people, but I think there should also be an emphasis on what did other cultures go through? What did we face? What are those similarities? And how can we bring that all together to be able to tell all of our stories? And I think that that's something very, very important. Obviously, you can see we have a lot of partners that aren't all African-American, and that's the beauty of it. It shouldn't just be a story that we tell about ourselves and about our history, but it should also show the support that we have from other cultures.
Yes, and definitely. When you think about the fact of what Jeff said, that all cultures have struggles, people of color have struggles. And as a Japanese American, his family was interned during World War II, in concentration camps because the government thought that the Japanese people would side with the Japanese government, that the Japanese Americans would side with the Japanese government when they had been living here for generations and generations. So that is another point. And his being a part just speaks to what you just spoke to, that there's more than just Black people that are involved and people from all cultures. That's what I've loved about the San Francisco Black Film Festival from the days of your grandmother, Ave. And that is that it was like a living room where people could come in from all cultures and sit on the couch and look at the stories and see all of the similarities that everybody has and everything. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take a look at one of the winner of the Jeff Adachi Social Justice Award, and that is Sinzun, a revolutionary activist. And we're so blessed to have James Farr, one of the producers, with us. But before we bring James on, give me a moment, and I am going to bring up the trailer so that the audience will have some context of what we're doing here. And let's get this, and they'll see why this was a great film.
We know who the gangsters are. We are not the gangsters. The gangsters are out there talking about putting weed and seed in our community. The gangsters are out there talking about building more prisons and more jails. We know who the gangsters are. The question is, do you know who the gangsters are? Hands on your head, turn around!
Racist posters, racist anecdotes and jokes that are supposedly jokes, but then when you watch the officers deal with people on the streets, you see the violence.
Struggling for social change is not a fad, but is in fact real. You guys didn't know what a beach was.
We went places, the beach, the mountains, museums, the zoo. It was eye-opening for us to get out of the hood and go to these places.
My concern was that somebody would just come up to him and shoot him.
He always understood how important media was.
Welcome to A Message to the Grassroots. I'm your host, Michael Zinzin.
I'm lucky though. I'm lucky. I was scared.
Some of the brain trauma that he had and brain damage, and along with the cracked skull.
The officers are saying, why are you picking on us? This is what we always do.
Our issue was always swept under the rug. The sister that she killed was an honor student, had a whole future ahead of her.
retire for the good of the LAPD and the welfare of all of Los Angeles.
This was not a riot, it was a rebellion.
It's the Harlan's and the King's case.
Tonight's program is live and entitled, Why We All Need to Support the Gang Truce Now.
Well, I'm a blood out of Watts from Circle City Paru, and I'm up in Altadena with Roach from Altadena Black Crip.
There's a standard that this society sets in. You must have a big car, gold around your neck, them pump tennis shoes, or you ain't nobody. So you see everybody out there scrambling by any means necessary to achieve those goals.
King, Newton, you name it. And they, through these individuals on the reel to reel, and educated us about the movement.
I'll tell you, that is a very fascinating film, and Cree, I can understand why it won the Social Justice Award. There was so much history and everything else in it, and just so appreciate, your platform for these wonderful films and everything. So James is with us, and he's one of the producers, and we're going to talk a little bit about this particular subject. I guess the first question I have, because our topic is the power of cinema to affect social change. James, the first question is, do you think this film has any impact or will have any impact on social justice, and how and why?
Yes. Good morning, Jackie. And the short answer to that is yes. And I want to honor that yes. But first, I want to thank you for facilitating this. Cree, your 3-generational leadership and continuing on with this San Francisco Black Film Festival. And Newbie, good to see you, and the San Francisco Bayview in the room. All of these, and Brother Damon, pleasure to meet you, right? But all of these confluences, all of this intersection here harkens back to my hometown of being from the Bay Area. And so it is extremely an honor to represent this project. For our production team, on behalf of our director, Dennis Haywood, to be awarded the best social justice film. And when you line up the work of Mr. Jeff Adachi, that's where the intersection really lies. He was a generous example of a human being that fought for marginalized people, and where people, as they come to know Michael and his life's work through this film, and we were only able to carve out about 57 minutes of his life, but his total body and volume of work has left a lasting impact right here in Pasadena, where I'm located, which was his hometown. But as we see here, Michael is being celebrated and received back on the continent. So good afternoon to our brothers and sisters on the continent. But Michael was a world-renowned activist. It's just the world doesn't know him in a contemporary, popular sense.
Wow. You really put it together there, the fact of when I think about Cali, for instance, all the hard work that he did in keeping the film festival going after, such a charismatic leadership of his mom. And Cree is off to a great start as well. And the fact that, those personalities, how they work together. One of the things that, as I looked at the trailer, it's like, wow, it doesn't speak to all of the depth of this particular film. So one of the first things I want to know is, like, when will people be able to get access to it? But before you get into that, James, I do want to welcome Damon Batiste from NOLA's Royal Family of Music. That has joined us. I didn't realize, I didn't see him, that he had come in. So Damon, it's great to see you. We're gonna, oh, he dropped off. Okay. All right. Well, maybe he'll drop back in and everything. So that's a big story there too. The Batiste family and the work that they have been doing, and Damon particularly, with over 80 cultural visits to Africa, has really been amazing. And I just hope he can pop back on so we can talk about his experience. One of the things, James, you are a journalist, and as a journalist, what are some of your thoughts about the people that are involved in the story of Michael Zinzun that you and Dennis were able to capture? What are your thoughts about the journalistic aspect of it?
Thank you. When you trying to contract Michael's body of work, right? And when Dennis and I first embarked on this journey to tell his story, Dennis had a different reference being from Pasadena. I learned of Michael as this totemic figure who just everyone talked about. And what we learned is, as a through line, there is not another story about an activist, perhaps even a Black Panther, that cannot be told without going back through Michael. We know so many of the other stories. We know some of the celebrities, activists, if you will, and I don't use that as a pejorative, but some have just gained certain notoriety. Michael was never one that sought fame. Even when he successfully sued law enforcement, he repurposed, that's a new word, right? He repurposed that money back into the community. He didn't bail out to the suburbs. He didn't go say, I got my 40 acres and a mule. Michael took that almost $2 million collectively that he won through fighting the system with the system. And then he took that money right back into his Northwest Pasadena community and provided activities for young people. He opened up his home and had a library. He and his widow, Florence, they love people. And there's a whole generation of Pasadenians right now that Michael has had an untold impact on. And so I could talk about the other people, but really this story is about Michael. And traditionally, when you're telling a documentary or a story like this, you would want to bring in contemporary or kind of a narrative or kind of a reflective view from folks who served, worked, fought. No, we had over 4 terabytes, over 100 episodes of Michael's A Message to the Grassroots. And so at that point, we were just tasked with, what do we leave out? That was the challenge. What can we cram in, right? Mm-hmm. Normally you take, an ABC story and kind of follow it through, but this was really a montage of Michael speaking. I'd like to think we've arisen him from the dead, so to speak, right? Yes. We brought his voice back into a contemporary space that is so relevant. The things that he fought for 30 and 40 years ago, no surprise, they're still being fought for and relevant today.
Exactly. It was interesting to me. One of the first things that kept resounding in my mind is that big lie that is out there. And it's not only in the US, but all around the African diaspora, that we have no role models. And that's just not so. And you see that in Michael's story. And what I loved about it is that it wasn't just about Pasadena either. He had impact around the world. If my technical abilities were a little bit better, I would bring up the something I saw where he talked about South Africa and what was going on there, and the work that he did in Namibia, and just all of the things that he did. He was, and I was like, why hadn't I ever heard of this man until you brought this story forth? And so thank you for that. And thanks to the San Francisco Black Film Festival that allows this and other stories to happen and everything. And so Nube, I want you to jump in here a little bit. You're the editor of the San Francisco Bayview newspaper, and that is published by Willie and Mary Ratcliffe, and that's been since about the late 60s and early 70s, I believe. And that particular newspaper is the flagship for fighting for the rights of the oppressed, with a strong emphasis on helping those that have been affected by mass incarceration. How do you think films like this can impact social justice change? Do they? What's your opinion? Because you get lots of stories every day. Tell us your thoughts. Unmute.
Yeah. Okay. All right. There we go. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for that. And it's really beautiful to be here. Thank you for inviting me. And I want to say also, before I get into any of that, yes, thank you, Jackie, for your facilitating. You're just beautiful. And James, it's great to see you again, of course. And I'm very excited. I cannot wait to see the film in its entirety, because truth is I came late to the film when we were there at the screening. And Cree, it's just great to see you as well. And yes, really kudos and just amazing work in your leadership. So, and I also just, humbly say how grateful I am actually to be in the position that I'm in as well, because as the editor, the current editor of this amazing newspaper, it actually started in, I think, 1976 with Muhammad Karim. And then 15 years later, Mary and Willie, Dr. Willie Ratcliffe were able to take it over. So I think they printed their first newspaper maybe in 1991. I am terrible with names and dates and things like that, so don't hold me to it. But 30 years, basically, they've been holding down this newspaper and creating this space. And Cree talked about being a platform, this film festival being able to be a platform. And I feel that the San Francisco Bayview National Black newspaper is also something like that. And being able to, again, go back and not only just look at history, but move history forward, right, into the present, because really that's how, at least that's how I see history, right? It's not something that just happened in the past. It's something that informs what's happening now. So it's really alive because it's also going to, take us forward. And I also just want to clarify one thing too, because I'm really getting into to language, not getting into language, but understanding how important language is. I mean, when we think about, visuals and how important and powerful visuals can be, language is also very important. And I want to make sure that we're, mass incarceration is not that, it's slavery. Slavery is taking place and it is legal. And we are really tasked to call it what it is. Because when we talk about those letters that come into the newspaper, most of the letters, actually, like 99% of the letters that come in are from prisoners. So the other story content comes from, we don't have a staff of writers or anything like that, but we have contributing writers on the outside. But for all of anything that all the stories that we get to platform in this newspaper come from letters from the people on the inside. And in a sense, they're journalists, right? They're not always, they're not always just giving us case stories. They're actually telling us what's happening. They're giving us commentary on the state of affairs of legalized slavery that's taking place within our prisons. So our prisoners become the journalists inside. And so to have, and many of them before they were captured were people like Michael Zinzun. They were the activists, right, on the streets. Our activists are arrested on the daily.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, it should be our constitutional right to protest, and yet people are arrested at every protest. Almost at every protest. Even right now, they just talked about, there was a big protest around this environmental bill that's taking place. And 17 people were protesting, and I think 6 people got arrested. How is that possible? Right. So, for someone like Michael Zinzun, it's beautiful to see. We talked about role models and being able to tell the story of our role models. Our people need that, right? There are role models inside of our prisons, and those stories need to be told. And oftentimes who is being caged are those people that are speaking up. People like Michael Zinzun. We need people like that to be featured and remembered so that we can continually be inspired, right, by those that are continuing that work forward. So that, the confluence, again, there's that confluence, right, of our work and bringing history forward, and these platforms that we have to feature the voices and the lives of people to continue to inspire our fight for liberation and sovereignty. We talk about some of the work that Michael Zinzun did, right? And how it's affecting the Pasadenians? Is that how you call yourselves? Pasadenians?
Close enough.
I'm a black man in America, but keep
right,
going.
there you go. Right. And when he talks about bringing, the truce and talking with the gangs, but also what I hear him also saying, and this is the other thing, it goes right back to the work with the prisoners and the newspaper, because we're one of the only newspapers. There's another newspaper also, but I think we're like one of 2 that actually features the voices of it. Modern day enslaved people that we call prisoners, right? Mm-hmm. And many of those people are imprisoned because they were labeled gang members, right? Exactly. And so he talks about that. I just have to say this about the gang truce, but one of the first things that he says in the beginning of the film is, who are the real gangsters though?
Hello.
Right? So
yeah. There's so much depth to this. We're really just scratching at the tip of the iceberg on this, and we're talking about cinema and its power to change for social change, but it also encapsulates images and the impacts of images that we get hit with onslaughts every day, slings and arrows of outrageous fortune of racist images and everything that we have to deal with. And that gives the comfort level for someone to easily take the life of a Black man who's just been stopped for a traffic violation. So, the power of cinema is really very significant and important. And James, before you leave, or we leave this conversation, and I do want to hear from Damon Batiste. He's made it back and everything in a moment or two, but I just want to find out, will people be able to access this film, and when and how, and what can we do? Or is it just touring during film festivals, James?
Excellent question, Jackie. And this is actually a great question for the audience, filmmakers who are tuning in, who fortunately and unfortunately know this story all too well. It is our biggest desire to have this film shown and as wide of a platform and to as many people, because when we made this film, and most films like this are not made with the intention of being a profit center, right? We didn't invest the time and the resources in this to come up. But in getting it to a larger platform, there's the restriction of if you've made it available to everyone, then there's no value to have it available in another platform. And so currently we're very selectively screening it at film festivals like the San Francisco Black Film Festival. And we're so honored to be in space with the folks in Durban. And so that's the short answer to it. We would love to make it available, but what I can tell you is HBO has picked up a reboot of a very storied docuseries from the 90s, Eyes on the Prize. And so we are ecstatic that Michael's story, in some respects, not his full story. I mean, they're telling their story, but they're working with us to help tell that story. And so it will be much more available in terms of the world. And I think as a result of that, distributors and those who are in those have those levers to push this film to a larger platform will see that investment that Time Warner and Sony and whatnot have made into Michael's work. And we aim to bring it to a wider platform. I got to thank the Minister of Information, Brother J.R. Valley.
J.R., yes.
You know, you got to thank him for his agency in the space. And,
Definitely.
you know, we just think about Michael losing his eye, you know, fighting for people. We think about Americans exercising their First Amendment and constitutional rights, and then the state weaponizing law enforcement to kind of serve as that security protection around property, which is what our brothers and sisters are that are incarcerated. And lastly, the old African proverb has really grounded me in this work. And I was charged with this and out doing some work in Akron, Ohio, and in Buffalo, New York. And these are all stories that, you know, folks in Durban may have heard of. But that proverb that is, until the lion learns to speak, the hunter will always tell the story. And so Dennis and I are lions in this space. And we aim to do our best to honor Brother Zinzan and his widow Florence. And we're thankful that they have entrusted us with his body of work, and Nancy Buchanan for archiving that body of work, and elders saying, young brothers, go. And as Michael would end every episode of A Message to the Grassroots, forward ever, backwards never, all power to the people. And that's what we want to be in this contemporary.
Wow. All power to the people. You know, as you were ending your comments and everything, it just seemed like a great lead into speaking with Damon Batiste, who is based in New Orleans. Recently had a wonderful opportunity of working with him, doing some writing around the work that he was doing with Celebrate Africa Week, the essence of Africa, that was happening right in the midst of the big culture of Essence that was happening with the Essence magazine. And it was just great to be at the, grassroots, making a difference in the lives of people based on stories. Now, Damon, there's just so much. I don't know where to begin with asking you about this question about the power of cinema for social change, because you've been back and forth to Africa over 80 times. You have brought films to Africa. You've been involved with the African Film Festival there at KCAP, I believe it is. And I shouldn't put words into your mouth. Why don't you go ahead and just, based on what we're talking about today, what are some of your thoughts that you'd like to share with the audience? Make sure you're unmuted.
Good morning, Jackie. Okay, can you guys hear me?
I can hear you now. Could you speak up a little bit more, though?
I'm unmuted.
Okay, yeah, you're unmuted.
Yes, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay, yes. So I just want to say good morning. Okay, good morning to James, Cree, yourself, and the other lady that just spoke.
New
It's
Bay.
just a wonderful thing that you guys are doing this. So coming from the cinema point of view, New Orleans, where I'm at, we're now 4 in the United States and delivering cinema films to the rest of the world, from New Orleans. And I think anytime you get a chance to have a platform to showcase different films, festivals, my family has been involved in the entertainment sphere. I'm 54 since I was before I was born. So you can look at the generations and the generations and the decades of entertainment. Today, as I woke up, I saw Big Freedia promoting Beyonce's new album, and I think there's a large spread of the LGBTQ movement, and entertainment sphere, which is fine. But I think, as James said, I'm in America, I think there needs to be more of a platform for Black men to show leadership roles, like the gentleman say, who are the real gangsters. We're not the gangsters. We're not putting the drugs in the communities. We don't really manufacture anything, less alone than AK-47s and the weapons. So when folks look at the real stories, these are the type of stories that need to be told in homes, educated, so that folks will know that we're getting half of the story when we see Black men incarcerated or killing each other, at a rapid rate. That's half the story. So I think we could embrace the Black man narrative a little stronger, as if we pushed every kind of agenda in America, but Black leadership for Black men. And I think, maybe the San Francisco Black Film Festival could also give us a platform to showcase that we're more than just thugs and gangsters, and that we just want to kill up the neighborhoods. That's not true. So thank you for involving me in this platform. This is what I do for the rest of my life. I'm also involved with an initiative with Chevron to create diversity with diversity suppliers. They just Shell just posted an $11.8 billion a profit. If we can get to some of these profits with the corporations, I think the narrative in the United States will change amongst people of color. We need to get to the profits because we're spending money. We're at the gas stations, we're in the grocery stores, but we're not getting a part of the profits to have an equal share in America. So those are the things that I advocate for. I can do it round the clock, 24/7, and for the next 10 lifetimes. So anything like this, I think is a positive. And I'm phenomenal on stage as a performer, but I'm even better at the round table doing with the corporation asking for money, because John Baptiste has taken my role as far as a performer on stage. The rest of the world loves him, but who will the world love the Black man if he's asking for his equal share in equity, culture, inclusion, and diversity? Or will we be just pushed back?
Wow.
So that's my statement.
I know you mentioned your first cousin, John Baptiste, that everybody knows from, Late Night with Stephen Colbert. So, of course, another indication of the quality and expression that comes from NOLA's royal family of music. The Baptiste is definitely in his work, and he just received, I think it was 5 of the 11 Grammy nominations recently and everything. And so with that, there's just a lot of richness from your family, a richness from New Orleans, and to showcase that positivity is really important.
Exactly. One of the things that one of the things that wasn't shown is that my father and I, we were part of the first ever tour of the Juneteenth celebration, as Juneteenth has been now a national holiday. So you see the contrast. When we're on stage performing, the rest of the world knows about that. But when we're leading for initiatives like Juneteenth, there may be 5 or 6 people in the audience. So that's what I'm really seeing and documenting, that those kind of things has to change, because in our family we have way more than just one person that can win 11 Grammy nominations or 11 Grammys. You know, we have so much more to offer than just that. You know, so I'm wishing the corporations will just have a Batiste Media Week where you come and explore the whole royal family, put us on every network at one time. We have enough family members that can put us on ABC, CBS, NBC, MSNBC, Bloomberg, and CNN.
Okay.
Those stages at one time. So maybe if you have a publicist out there, that's what I'm putting out there. We can do it at one time.
Wow. I think I don't know if the world would be ready for that all at one time. But, you know, the San Francisco Black Film Festival has had a part in sharing your family story, because I had the wonderful opportunity of interviewing who I call Sir David Batiste, your father, you know, for the film festival. And it was just quite the story. I think your father has 15 children, I think.
He has. So that's another story in itself. That's another documentary film festival in of its own. But yes, I think 14 with seven different wives. One was my mom. I was a part of the first original crew, as I call me and my brother and my sister. But we all get along, and we all, you know, one family under my dad's roof. But we've all contributed so much to the rest of the world in the music and cultural sphere in a very positive way.
I think I said 15 because I think I was counting myself as one, you know, getting in there as well.
I think he may have told you 15, but I think it's 7 boys and 7 girls. But maybe
all right.
You are
No. That was probably my error. But, you know, you're from New Orleans. And as a matter of fact, we had Jason Williams, who was going to be one of our speakers. So we really appreciate you stepping in and giving a perspective from New Orleans and everything. Jason Williams, of course, is the DA of New Orleans. And one of the reasons I bring up the fact that he wasn't able to make it, but there was something that happened that tied in with what Nube was talking about, the concept of a mass incarceration being slavery. And he moderated a wonderful event during your the Celebrate Africa Week, and that was Black women securing justice. And you should look for it on Facebook. I did put a link to it in the box of information of references that the audience could take a look at, because I said we wouldn't have time to go over everything, but take a look at that. And one of the things that was discussed, he had 5 Black district attorney big district attorneys that were there. And one of them spoke about the fact that corporations are taking advantage of the incarcerated through telecommunications, where they're making millions of dollars off of the prisoners who have to use the phone services and everything. And there were just other things that they were talking about the fact of how there are these various things that occur in our society that impact Black people negatively, where we're supporting the oppressors of our community. So I really appreciate everyone being here. I don't know, Cree or Nube, or if anybody wants to jump in with something as we're getting close to winding up our conversation, please feel free.
Can I build on a little bit of what Brother Damon is sharing?
Please.
This is truly an intergenerational conversation, and I want to center us back into the space and agency that Cree has. And one of the things that we've learned from Michael, you mentioned how resilient he is, and how self-sufficient he was. And one of the things we've learned is when we have to set this up the right way. Michael did this work in the 80s and 90s. That's absent of the conveniences that we have today, where Damon is in New Orleans, Nube's in San Francisco. I think Korea is down in San Diego, and our host and audience primarily is the world right now, South Africa, Durban. Michael did that with a bulky camera, and he was on the ground. And what he was able to do was demonstrate self-sufficiency. And so to Brother Damon's point, and I want to build out on that, Damon, we have to, and I'm so excited for Cree and this intellectual property that she's been entrusted to carry on. This is a legacy, right? And so we have to no longer ask for permission, perhaps ask for forgiveness if they and whoever they are don't like what we're doing, but we just have to do it. We have to take the tools that we have and put this content out. If Dennis and I were waiting for financing to produce not one, but 2 films, we wouldn't be sitting here. You folks would be here, but we wouldn't be a part of that conversation. And so it's not about what they can do for us. We have to take back what is rightfully ours. And what is ours is our story to tell unapologetically.
Yes.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Very powerful.
I would
Newbie,
love to jump
go
in there,
ahead.
yes, because I know we're running out of time, and I would be remiss. So right off of what just James was talking about. So again, this continuum, I just got finished transcribing an interview that I did with a young revolutionary New African inside of prison who is developing a documentary, a 3-part limited docuseries. I don't know how, because I'm tired. This is the early morning. This brother, Kwame Lil Beans Shakur, again, coming up in the 90s, he's 30 years old. He's so young. And while he is inside with a 120-year sentence over his head, he is able to organize people on the inside and on the outside, and he is developing this amazing documentary. And I just got finished transcribing our interview. That's going into the newspaper. So think about that again. I mean, with film and the visuals and how important and how powerful it is, there is a definite relation to the work that we are all doing, because it is about us being able to unapologetically tell our stories of what's taking place. Like, again, we are an oppressed people, but we are also a resilient, powerful people, and we are making those changes. So I'm really excited about this. And I also would be remiss if I didn't shout out to J.R. Valray, who also brought 12 he brought in, I think there were eight students of journalism, 12-year-olds, came into the office. He brought them into the San Francisco Bayview National Black newspaper. So we definitely talking about that intergenerational aspect of our work together. So I'm really excited to be here. Thank you so much. And it's really great to meet you, Damon.
Yes. And J.R. Valray,
well. I think this is
let's give him kudos.
Yeah.
Damon, go ahead.
Go.
No, well, I think what James has just said, and the lady so exquisite just talked about from the Bayview National Black News. What's your name again, ma'am?
Nube Brown.
Yes, Nube. I think this is something that New Orleans is known as the most African city in the United States. If you've never been to New Orleans, come and see why. We and I just learned from another book that Congo Square is an area in New Orleans, but I was also told that Congo Square was anywhere where people of color could congregate and have one day off on a Sunday to just, be themselves, sing, dance, and do what they have known to do from Africa. Making 84 trade visits. One of the things that people don't know, I was able to go because of cultural synergy and bring back a $40 billion development from South Africa with Sasol Oil into Lake Charles, Louisiana. So, you're talking about bringing from Africa $40 billion investing into the United States with the oil and gas industry. Those are profits that should maybe be utilized to highlight the San Francisco Black Film Festival and narratives and Black films that we have. So maybe that's a takeaway from this interview that I would like to talk further about in a roundtable. that I think our mayor of New Orleans would be excited to maybe have and be a part of this conversation.
Wow. It's really interesting that you bring that up because even prior to Essence, you and I spoke about the fact that both Durban and New Orleans and San Francisco were port cities, and that there really needed to be more cultural trade, business trade, and that sort of thing. And then our mayor from San Francisco, Mayor London Breed, happened to be at the Essence Festival at the reception that Mayor Cantrell hosted, opening for the Essence Cultural weekend. So, hey, I think, that idea, it might be about time and everything. And Cree?
Not to interrupt you, but I think one of the specific takeaways is the ports have profits. They have money. They're landlords to oil and gas companies, to import-export trade. That is maybe one of the ways that we could really talk about this with a significant takeaway, because it would be more than just talking, And as James alluded to, if he didn't take the ominous of executing his own film of financing it, it wouldn't have happened. Most films and things of America, like football, basketball, baseball, they have sponsors. We don't have sponsors, so we have to talk about why not us. If you want to have diversity, equity, and inclusion, you have to sponsor the things that we are doing exactly like you're sponsoring other things that they're doing. Because they're meaning now that they're segregated, Black people are involved in sports.
Exactly. Wow. And there was a lot there that you just said. Cree, these last few minutes that we have, I just want to give you the floor if you'd like to add anything.
I just want to go back, I guess, to talking about JR. Obviously, he's a big partner in the San Francisco Black Film Festival too.
Exactly.
And if you ever have a chance to listen to him talk and just listen to everything that he's doing, he has a story of his own. And someday I do hope that somebody would reach out to him and even document his story. He did struggle. He had he overcame a lot, and I never knew about any of that until my father's passing, and he spoke at my father's memorial. But and obviously he's not here, but I just wanted to make sure that that was noted too, because he helps tremendously with the San Francisco Black Film Festival. And to be honest, I would have never met James or Dennis if it weren't for him either. So we wouldn't have even crossed paths as much as we have, and they've become a huge partner with the SFBFF too.
Great. As a matter of fact, I was looking through my list. My intention was to make sure that article that JR did was in that list. And I'm going to go back and put it in the comments because he interviewed Dennis, who wasn't able to join us as well. And it's just a marvelous piece of work. And there is also an interview that is dear to my heart that JR did about your father. So his work as a journalist is well respected and well noted. And as a matter of fact, I did try to see if he could join us, but my invitation came a little bit too late, so he wasn't able to join us or anything. And there were several other people that were going to be joining us, and things just kind of life happened. So that's where we are with that. And so definitely J.R. Valray, we're going to have some information about him in some of the categories where I can put the references that we've made in this conversation. And Cree, looks like you want to say something.
One more thing, yeah. I don't know, James, do you want to talk a little bit about Black August?
I do. And thank you so much for providing that opportunity. Again, this is back into that space of ownership, that space of doing for self, that space of self-sufficiency. And so Dennis and I have created the Pasadena African American Film Foundation, which can house these historical documents. One of the things we'd like to do in the future is to be able to, kind of mirror what JR is doing. Let's teach some young storytellers what we've learned, because we can't just be a deposit or a bank of information without giving that money back or that information back to another younger generation. And we decided, after a great experience at the San Francisco Black Film Festival last year, and a great experience this year, but we've created a Black August Film Festival. And for those that may not be familiar with Black August, I challenge you, I invite you to Google it. Revolutionary work, activism is very much rooted here in the city of Pasadena. Like I said, we talked earlier about some of the more storied or celebratory activists that you may be familiar with names like George and Jonathan Jackson. That's Pasadena story.
Yes.
Angela Davis and her connection. That's a Pasadena story. And so we wanted to honor filmmakers who are interested in telling human stories around social justice, struggle, inequality, restorative justice, all in the mood of militancy. So we will be hosting on August 13th, and we're so fortunate to have over 30 films that will be screening, 8 of them from around the world. And this is just our first year. And so when we look at great examples of film festivals that are, produced and organized by, people who look like us, right? And I understand the history of this film festival, but when we look at that, we are going to provide a platform where intellectual discussion will intersection with a mood of militancy.
Now, is any of that going to be virtual? Because I'm thinking of the audience in Durban. Will they be able to look at the films virtually? And if not, depending on the wave of what's going on with the pandemic, maybe people could fly in from Durban and definitely with the festivals coming up next year will be the 44th year for the Durban International Film Festival. I hope by then I'll be able to fly there and enjoy. So what's the possibility with virtual?
First year, no. I mean, we just, we are a huge tribe of about 2 people right now, right?
Okay,
and so
right.
we are shouldering all aspects of this. And we understand that it's important to give this property, right, a solid foundation. And so our goal is to execute a well-run film festival. And we've had, folks like Cree to show us a great example of that. And we want to do that in our first year. Now that film festivals are in this hybrid model, certainly next year, that's something that we will consider, but that's not something that we didn't want to bite off more. Yes. Successful event in person, because we're so happy to be able to be in person right now.
Yeah, I certainly understand that. And I know if I had found out early enough that the Durban International Film Festival was a hybrid of both some live events and virtual, I would be talking to you from Durban right about now, because I do believe that's the city. It's the city I love. I fell in love with it. And just wanted to thank everybody for being a part of this. I wanted to bring to your attention, there are 2 references to this film called Birth of a Nation that is in the Facebook comments. Birth of a Nation by D.W. Griffith. That was done in 1915. And then also Birth of a Nation that was done by Nate Parker in 2016. I have the trailers for both of them. And I'd like for the audience to look it up if you don't see it in the description box. Look up those and compare them. Because in 1915, that particular Birth of the Nation by D.W. Griffith basically started a whole reinvigoration of the KKK and racism. And it was even screened at the White House. Okay. And so 100 years later, Nate Parker named his film Birth of a Nation that gave a juxtaposition to all of the racism that was in the original. And it just goes to show you that there is power in cinema for social change. And that is just one example. And there's just so many points of reference for social change that occurred. Think about the fact that back in February, or was it late January, that Sidney Poitier passed. And he was really very iconic in making social justice change, changing people's minds and ideas as a result of the film with Tony Curtis, where he and Tony Curtis, two black and white prisoners, were chained together and everything, the defiant ones. And when you think about his film, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, and the impact that those particular films were saying to our society, there is power in images and everything. And, as I look, and I'm going to just try to bring this up, and I just ask your forbearance with this, because to me, it just speaks to the importance of image and everything, as we have not only images on television, our children have images on phones and everything, but the images that come up and the result of those images. Someone posted this on my Facebook page, and I am going to try to bring it up here. And I just want to share it with you, because I think it kind of shows where we can be in a society. And here it is. And let me just bring up the audio on this. Let's go. I'll start it at the very beginning.
Killing, and then
What do you want to be when you grow up?
a murderer, because I like killing. My brain tells me if I like killing. I like killing because when I first watched my grown-up killing show, myself started to like killing, and then my brain started to like tell me what to do with killing in it. So I like murders and I like killing in my life. I'm gonna kill everybody in the world except for my family, because they just didn't do anything to me. I just like killing. So
just any type of person, it doesn't matter. What about me?
Yeah.
Even me?
No, not even my teachers either.
Okay, because I'm the first person that you told this. Am I? Yeah?
So I just like killing.
So what are you going to be again when you grow up?
A murderer.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay. I just wanted to share that, just to show the power of media. This young person, even in the days of following up Uvalde, to be voicing that he wanted to be a murderer. And in context of that particular piece was posted by Grady L. Harris. And he was sharing that because he's starting a campaign called Pray for the Children. He has a song that he is going to be sharing with the world about the fact that we need to really focus on our children, because these images are having an impact. And so all of this, I hope, speaks to the fact that what we do as filmmakers, what we do in whatever capacity that we are involved in, we have to take that into consideration. So with that in mind, everybody, it's time. We have to say goodbye, because I know they've got to get ready for the next presentation. But thank you all for sharing your time with us today. And thank you, Durban International Film Festival. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Time. Bye.